I will take over from my colleagues for the next panel discussion. And I'm really happy to welcome the EMKD projects we already mentioned in the presentation before. Yeah, we said we have 6 projects. You see 4 coordinators now here and 1 on the screen. And yeah, 1 project is missing today because of, I think, time issues, yes. Yeah, so as you already heard, it's a really pioneering program, IMKD. I think the first 2 projects started in 2019 and the others followed in 2020, and they are sadly coming to an end now. But I'm really happy that they share their experiences and best practices, lessons learned now here in this round with us. And yeah, with this being said, I would like to hand over already to you to introduce yourselves. Yeah, we start with Lisa. Yeah.
Hello. Do I have? Yeah. Hello. My name is Lisa Westphal. I work at the Technical University of Berlin, or Technische Universität Berlin. I'm not supposed to translate it, but anyways, I coordinate the IDEA project, which is one of the EMKD projects. And today we said we present not the whole project, but each of us brought a course that we want to share our experiences with. So I'm bringing the Smart Sensing and Smart City School, which we conducted every year of the project, and then both participants of both schools participate in one hackathon, which is actually taking part right now. So I came this morning from the hackathon and I'm going back after. And it's an elective course, so we have a bit of a different topic sometimes as other projects that have mandatory courses. So that's why, just as a background for you to know, we have 4 international partner universities, the NTNU in Trondheim, the Krüger University of Technology, Dublin City University, and the Poblete in Milano. And maybe that's it for now, and I'll give the word to my colleague.
So is this working? Yeah? Okay, fine. So hello everybody, my name is Juana Salas and I coordinate another of the EMKD projects, this one at Bielefeld University of Applied Sciences. And the course I brought here today is one of our longest running coils. It has been on ever since the beginning in 2020. It's called Social Work in Times of Crisis, so you can imagine how it developed and why. It has been running ever since, so it is now running for the 5th time. So we have seen a lot of rethinking, redesigning, and trying to adapt everything to the needs of the students. It is a cooperation with the University of Gothenburg, and over the time we also opened it up to the University of Sofia. It is a course where students work in multinational groups, looking at concrete situations, concrete projects and cases, and what they do is they write block entries. So they were first trained in collaborative writing in the beginning, and then they go on during the semester. Yes, I think that is more or less what I can tell you in over.
Yeah, hello. My name is Sennhenn and I coordinate the Life Sciences project at the University of Göttingen. And the example I want to introduce today is we embedded international excursions in the life sciences and actual courses, and got the students to engage virtually in preparation of these excursions and actual on-site international learning experiences in international student teams online. And in order to share also the experiences, the international experiences better with the students at home, the students were guided and engaged to present their experiences in videos and blogs throughout the course. And the example I brought today was together with the university in Talca in Chile. And yeah, with this I hand over to my colleague.
Good morning. My name is Michael Krüger. I'm from the Ludwigsburg University of Education, and the example I brought with me is a course called Education Marketing. This course is part of a master's program called International Education Management, which our university is running together with One University in Cairo since 10 years. And the characteristics of this program are, yeah, I guess I need to explain them a little bit because they have a huge impact on the course itself. Well, it's a very global program. We have 25 students or participants, as we call them, from literally all over the world. They're coming from 15 to 20 nations each year, many of them of so-called developing countries. Our students are preparing for leadership positions in education, and this education marketing course is part of this program. So the specific challenges of this program is that all the students, they are studying while working and while having family responsibilities, so it can't be done very much in a synchronous way. We have to work asynchronously. At least in the online parts, and then we have these attendance phases. They all are living in 12 different time zones, so you see it's, well, I guess our program is more, or the example I brought with you is more about preparing exchange than the exchange itself. The exchange then is then in the attendance phases or whatever, but not in that online part that we are talking about, what I could talk about today.
Okay, we will try it now with you, Mr. Wolff. Would you like to introduce yourself? Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, my name is Carsten Wolff from Dortmund University of Applied Sciences and Arts. Sorry for not being able to come to Berlin. We have quite lively times for various reasons in Dortmund, so I didn't make it. But I'm happy to see you at least online, and it also fits to some extent to the format of our projects. So we are having the project Mandy. It's about learning about managing the digital transformation and about digital education ecosystems. And one format that I would like to present, I would call it a format, it's called Agile Cross-Border Projects that we are using in various classes. And we have courses on agile project management. So the idea is that we put students into a learning situation for several weeks, so-called sprints, where they're collaborating online on solving a problem. In this course that I brought here, it is about developing a sustainability app in mixed teams between students of the University of the Basque Country and Dortmund University of Applied Sciences and Arts. And yeah, inherently, I would also call it a COIL, inherently, because it's about project management methodology. They are learning to do, let's say, virtual cross-border projects. So that is the idea behind it. So yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Wolff. So we see we have really 5 different projects here and different courses. So every project is unique, but still they agreed on 5 different key lessons learned, which we will discuss today. And I would like to start with the first one already. It's invest in planning and preparation. I think most of you might know this, that it's, yeah, we talked about it before, data protection and stuff like this. So yeah, I would like to hand over to Ms. Salas first.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, it's like whenever we talk about digital lessons, sometimes we forget that it's exactly the same preparation that we also need for in-person. But the thing is that as it is much more difficult to improvise, you probably have to invest even more time in preparation. So you have to think very, very carefully about what to do, how to set everything up, so that then your class can go smoothly. So in our case, we have the luxury of being able to partner up with the different professors who want to do a COIL. So we meet them first, and then we talk about their learning objectives, what skills they want the students to learn. And then we give them kind of, well, a discussion partner, a sparring partner really, somebody who really thinks everything through with them. So of course we also offer workshops for teachers, but we found out that the best way to do it is really individually with each teacher as he or she goes on planning her or his lesson. So what we do is we meet up, we see learning objectives, skills they want to teach, we think about what is a good methodology. Sometimes they already know, sometimes they have only a vague idea, and then we see which would be like good tools. They have to master the tools, of course, before they go in. So this is all these preparations that we do. Then we have to think about, do you need something like an extra input? For example, in the course that I talked about, the idea is that they do collaborative writing. So what we do is, one of my colleagues who is sitting over there, by the way, he goes into the course as a facilitator and gives them a workshop on collaborative writing, which he does without the teachers being present. So he also uses this workshop to give them a possibility of getting to know each other, so they have a nice breaking part where they really, because I mean you can't like throw them into a virtual course, they are like in there and they are not going to meet because they are not sitting next to each other. So they need to get a sense of belonging to the group, which is something that Max does when he goes in. Yeah, so it is really important to take into account that if you have a collaboration going on, this collaboration is going on between people. It is not going on between, I don't know, whatever it could be, students or no, it's really the person that is important at that moment. So you have to also think about how you're going to accompany the students during the semester, how you're going to prepare them if you have an exam at the end for the exam, how do you collect feedback from the students while they are going. So there are like many things you have to think about apart from the obvious things that are things like what are the semester times, what is the time of the day, how many people are participating, how many universities are participating, how is the quality of the internet they're using. There are so many things that you have to think of, and it is good to do it beforehand, because if not, they're going to disturb your classes while you go on. So, I don't know, anybody else? Oh yeah, time management, another one, really important one, because it's like, if you don't plan it beforehand, it is, even in normal classes, you normally, if it takes you like 5 minutes longer, it takes you 5 minutes longer, no problem. But if you go online, normally it's like it's tacted very, like one lesson stops, the next one is starting in the next minute. So it's like you have to think about all these things and take them into account. I don't know if anybody else wants to, yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree. And maybe just to add a bit more of what I think specifically to digital international courses that lead to more preparation time is also, for example, what learning management software do we use? How do we get all students in there? And I also think it's a lot more communication, because you need to give, let's say, the foreign participants different information than your own students, especially if you have a blended format and if students are coming also, I don't know, especially for TU, I don't know if the same for you, but if I want money for the students, I have to give the university a lot of time in order for the students to actually have money when they arrive here. It didn't work this time. The students are here, they had to pay the hostel, they had to pay their trip here. They'll get the money at some point, so I think there's some things that really are on top of, I mean, for every course it's good if you take time to prepare. But I think there's some specific things that are, especially for international digital courses, that add up to the time you need.
And sometimes you also have to apply for a funding program in advance, so it takes time as well. Yeah.
Maybe comment from my side for the preparation. So that was also feedback of students. The tolerance towards poor preparation is less in such a blended format. And also it needs to be written information, is our experience, because you have a one-to-one communication with the students. They are not interacting with each other in the first place. And that was the feedback when we did this the first times, that they were criticizing that things were unclear or it was not sufficiently described. So our feedback would be also that a very good preparation, also a documented preparation, very elaborated information material is important. Also to make sure that students can start immediately and that you are not having a long lead time for sorting out the issues. So that was our experience. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So do you have any further advice on this thesis? Otherwise, due to time issues, we come to the next. It's about teaching units. So keep your teaching units short and sweet. And I would maybe add something from the RWTH Aachen, which is the project which is not here today. When we had our last coordination meeting from the program IMKD, we asked Mr. Schlatter, who is the person for the virtual reality mine, which is the university using, and we asked him, how long is it possible for students to do this virtual reality, to be in this mine? And he said, 15 minutes maximum, because then students get sick from it. So that's maybe, we cannot translate the lectures into into the virtual format. But yeah, I would like to hand over to Mr. Krüger, who has also a lot of experience with teaching units.
Yeah, but no advices. Sorry. Just lessons learned or problems detected. Okay, so again, in our program, again, it's more or less asynchronous, so it's more about developing learning materials, videos, animations, graphics, whatever, to prepare students in their countries and to bring them on a certain level of knowledge, and then to be able to exchange with each other, but then really on base of models that they have already learned. So that's the idea. And the problem is that, of course, if you're learning at home, having 100 other things to do, you're having your family, you're having your job, it has to be engaging in a way. So that's, again, the first really difficult part. And again, it has obviously not to be too long, and you have to be informed before how long it will take, because and again, you have to maybe to prepare dinner or whatever. So that's something. Yeah, and this is a kind of a challenge that we felt that we have, just to try to change the format, to sometimes to have kind of animated videos, then real videos, videos in front of a green screen, and then kind of animation, just making changes a lot of, just to keep people exposed to different kind of media, and again keeping it as short as possible. And the last thing is that we always try to bring it on multiple channels. So it's not only the visual; it's also usually they get the text, so they see what they what is said there, and usually and after that you have a kind of an activation, so that you again have to more or less to do the same thing and to work with what was said. It's not really adding more, it's not even a transfer, it's just more kind of repeating what was said, trying to have a kind of a very simple multiple choice test, just repeating what was said, just to be active, because this again is something that you are not when you are not in the classroom. So that's maybe how we try to deal with it at the moment, and yeah, curious to hear about your questions and impressions and whatever.
Yeah, if there are questions in the audience, you can always raise your hand and I will try to include you in the discussions. Otherwise, yeah. Okay, we already have the first one.
Just a quick one, what's short in your opinion?
For a video, I would say 5 minutes. And again, this is quite difficult because you know we are planning units for 90 minutes and we are trying. Of course, we're testing them too, but in the first moment, you try to bring yourself into the position of the learner, and okay, would you still be active here? What is the next possible step? It's very abstract, but what I feel is if you change it a lot, if you be active and if you change every 5 minutes something, then maybe you have a chance. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much. But I also want to highlight it's very useful in international learning settings to have also a plate of material to offer to the students, because learning is so different how it happens at the individual basis. And what's also what you mentioned, I totally agree that to definitely have time to reflect across learners and learning groups, so that they have the chance to continuously reflect what I have learned within the last small unit and sweet unit, hopefully. Yeah, so to have time to incorporate this in the settings, the scenarios is, yeah, important.
Yeah, maybe just to add to your question, what's short? I know that we also discussed that before. I remember you were saying maximum 20 minutes of any input session. We didn't really accomplish that, but at least we split like the 1.5 hours of lecture. We said, okay, only 45 minutes lecture, and then the students have to discuss in groups, in like virtual breakout rooms, and then they have to ask, they have 15 minutes, and then they have to ask the professor or the teacher that question, so there is some kind of a discussion. So, and what I would also say that I think virtual courses highlight a problem that exists also in other, like in-person teaching, because maybe we should say goodbye to 1.5 hours of one person talking. And I think it's just more clear in virtual settings.
Sorry, very last remark on that, because if we're talking about videos, small bits of information, it's pretty sure that this can't be done by one person only. You have usually the lecturer or the professor, whoever, who's the kind of content expert, and in our programs, I guess you have even a whole group tandems from, and then you need someone who is responsible for the videos. Usually then you need someone who's responsible for the literature base, because all the videos have to be scripted before they can be produced. And you need someone who is then maybe responsible for the learning platform and for all the technical issues. We have these people here within our IDEN project. Egi and Matthias are here. But this is again something I'd say if we would go for this type of learning in a sustainable way, it needs much more personnel. It can't be done only by lecturers. It's simply impossible.
Yeah, and talking about videos, like videos, even if they are very short, they are a passive way of learning. So whenever you have the chance, give them the video first and then let them apply it. Let them do something with it, because if not, it goes in and out very, very quickly.
Yeah, maybe also comment from my side, if you have a pure online setting, in our cross-border online setting, then you have also the chance to have smaller, let's say, quizzes, tests, feedbacks, because people are anyway at the screen. You don't need to go into an exam setting or something like this. Doing after a short unit, a small online test or a quiz or a feedback, or even a short presentation, it's much easier, because you don't have the people don't need the time to switch into a different situation. So I see also advantages for this, especially for these smaller units, if you're in an online setting.
Okay, thank you. We will already come to the next phrase. So we talked a lot about the teaching and learning, but which is also really necessary when we come to internationalization is the student collaboration. And one of your phrases is place student collaboration at the heart. And yeah, Ms. Westphal.
Thank you. I think key to student collaboration is the question of how do we keep the students engaged, and this also, like, it goes back to what we've just discussed with the teaching units. I think we had a phrase when we were discussing this before also, how to emotionalize the students. Because if you're emotionally involved, if you meet people there that you like, you're more likely to follow the lecturer actively rather than just passively. And we had some learning during our project there. The first time we had group work, we had discussion, like didactically we included collaboration, but then we noticed students are not really talking much to each other apart from exactly what they have to do. So in the second year we introduced before each, because we only have block courses, so before the block courses, the week before, we do a virtual get-together where it's not about the course, where it's only about getting to know each other with some icebreaker games, with, I don't know. It's always a bit embarrassing, but I have the feeling that it works so that the discussions that the students have during the course actually change because they know who they are discussing with. So that's one learning we had, which worked really good. Also for the exam, we have now, we introduced portfolio exams, so we have some tasks that they can do on their own, but also group exams. And maybe just one example from our smart sensing course, which I found really was a really great idea, was we had an Arduino workshop. I don't know if some of you know what Arduino is. It's like some really small computer, like that way, is that where you can learn programming. And we send a package of like different tools and cables and batteries and the Arduino computer to each student at their home where they were living at that moment. And then they had to set it up in an online setting. And I think that was kind of a nice way to have some kind of feeling, oh, we're doing something together and we have, it's still virtual, but we have something we can touch that we can work with. And I think that was really appreciated by the students. And maybe, I don't know, you have some other examples of student collaboration?
Well, I mean, it's like everything else. It's like exactly the same thing we are doing here while we're meeting. We are meeting because the sum of each of us together is much more than every individual. So that is the idea. Give them a safe space, make it possible for them to throw their ideas together and see what comes out of it, to use the synergies. And this is something that they really need. And this is what makes it special. And the problem is that it doesn't come like easily. You can't just throw them into a room and it happens. It's not like that, it's not magic. So there needs to be a sense of belonging to the group and really give them the idea that they can, and that they can even like utter ideas that might even seem a little bit stupid, but I don't know, if you put them together, sometimes what comes out is magic. So this is something that I feel was difficult in the beginning because everybody felt very insecure. That was also when they didn't put on their cameras in the beginning. So it was this black wall that didn't help anybody. And it was difficult because for us, we also didn't want to force them to turn on their cameras. But after a while, I think that they themselves realized that it works much better if they do so.
Yeah, I just wanted to underline what also Lisa just said. No matter what discipline you're coming from, we are in the life sciences had some challenges to also let the lecturers take their time for the icebreaker situation, because if you in the life sciences, even if it's the focus of the learning objectives is not the intercultural competencies at the first line, still this is most important issue, and you have to spend some time, invest some time in get the students to know each other and get engaged actually.
Yeah. Putting students' engagement into the center, I guess I don't contradict, but I just want to add a question. When? Well, because I think learning and exchanging is not entirely the same thing. Just want to give you an example. If we, in our study program, are talking about educational leadership and how the educational leader should be, you could start a discussion on that, and then all the students, they are discussing about their superiors and their bosses and how and what they experience and whatever. I guess that is quite interesting, especially if it is very, very international. But of course, you cannot go over a certain level as long as you do not have any models of whatever power distance or what exactly does leadership mean, what's the difference between leading and managing or whatever. So I would say this, if you have a kind of a exchange at the very beginning, it's quite nice. It is engaging. But yeah, but learning, especially in the context of higher education, is not just nice and interesting. So, and this is why we try to do it in this kind of a flipped classroom concept. Just try to learn a little bit about the concept, and then try to engage and come together. Maybe even fly around the world to meet other peoples, and then start a discussion. Based on some knowledge that you already have, and I guess this is something, yeah, that could maybe be an interesting point. Just exchange, of course, put it into the heart, but when, and what could maybe be the preparation of this exchange.
Okay, so you would say that you first start with the teaching and learning, and then you put the student collaboration a little bit later. Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe we have some voices.
Let's get this to a discussion. So let me contradict. So I would really invest in student collaboration first, and then, of course, maintain the student collaboration over time. Give them input. Again, student collaboration, input, student collaboration, go on like that. Because what they need in the beginning is this, what I said, like a sense of safe space, to know that they can utter whatever they want to utter, and then discuss about it, and that nothing is like completely wrong. Everything is contributing to the conversation. So I would like go little by little, and we have a question.
Yes, Regina Brautlach, Hochschule Bonn-Rhein-Sieg. We've been engaged in virtual exchange for the past 10 years, and I think building rapport before you work is very important. This is something, if it's not in a virtual space, but also in a simple space that we're here. If we don't build rapport, we can't work together, and we underestimate the power of getting together and first building rapport. I will not work with you if I don't know you, so we need to, in a virtual space, also offer that opportunity. And this is where we tend to, as teachers, myself, we have our curriculum, we have all that pressure of the 12 or 14 weeks, and we fight between building rapport before we start working, or do we start working? And I think it's a really crucial discussion that you're having right now. And from our experience that we've had, we've added more and more building rapport and less content, because otherwise there is no working in collaboration. If we have 2 semesters, I think it would be easier. Our problem is always that our programs are always based on 1 semester, which makes it really challenging. So I would agree with that. Building rapport is what we call it, getting together and doing activities of cultural nature before we start our content is really important. And the fight we have internally is always, how do we balance that act? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that comment. Yeah, maybe to make it a little bit more concrete, what exactly do you do before the learning and the teaching starts? So you said something about, yeah, making yourself a little bit stupid. I'm curious, what exactly did you do?
Well, the first part was never that embarrassing. We used a tool where we had a certain set of questions that students could log into and answer at the same time. Like the first question, how are you feeling right now? And then on a scale of 1 to 5, and then it displayed all of the answers together. So that was easy. Where are you from? Where are you right now? Those kind of things. And then we played a game, for example, aliens have landed. So we said, okay, aliens have landed, and you have to explain the aliens what your expectations are for the course using 4 emojis, and you should discuss in groups what kind of 4 emojis you want to show and why you think those are the 4 emojis that explain what you want from this or what you expect from this course. And it's always when we explain it, we looked into funny faces, but in the end, I think it was a good way to get the students to start talking to each other. So it's just, I mean, yeah, it's always a bit weird, but it worked for us. I don't know, maybe you have other examples of games.
Maybe not an example, not from the field excursions course, but also from our summer kind of school campus. There we also did, the topic was shaping future landscapes, and the students had to bring a short kind of picture presentation with pictures from their home landscapes and also from their images which also showed their interests. It was really, really important because, I mean, it's not important for the course itself, but we had lots of cat persons, so they connected at the first place from the very first second. But maybe another example, we also had like an online cooking kind of event where students were able to bring the kind of international recipes and try to kind of cook together online. This was kind of difficult at the first place, but it also made that students get engaged and knew each other on a different level, which was important for the success of the course itself.
Yeah, in the spirit of being like very individual, what we did is we created like a catalog of different ice-breaking possibilities so that the different teachers can choose different things that they feel comfortable with. Because the thing is, like, if the teacher already like feels uncomfortable with a game at the beginning, and many teachers do, then it's even more difficult to get the people to get involved and feel comfortable. So we have this luxury in the project that we do have Max, who is sitting over there, who is our facilitator. So he has spent a lot of time thinking about how to make people feel comfortable, students as well as teachers.
Maybe comment from my side. I would also support Regida's statements that investing into this collaboration and making them start to communicate and collaborate is very important. In our format, it's the heart of the whole thing, that they have to do a project together and to collaborate. And we have one element that we are using. We do a team-oriented personality test, the Belbin test, for example, where you find out about what kind of team personality you are. And that is something that makes students at least think about this and start to talk about this. And another element, we already mentioned the safe spaces. So we let them use tools which they are familiar with, WhatsApp, Discord, or something like this, where we as teachers are not present. That seems to be something that allows them to do this. By the way, online cooking we also did once, and games are also a way. So there is a number of things, but I also agree that it's very important, at least for our format, to open them up to start to communicate. They don't know each other. They are sitting individually in front of a computer, and so I believe it's a very important element.
Yeah. Okay, we have a question here. And another one here, yeah.
Hi, it's more 2 comments more than a question. Thank you. I'm part of Anna Sennhenn's team, and in the Live Science Q project, we produced actually a cooking book that has come out of 2 events of cooking together, and it was quite fun. The first one was a little bit difficult because they put me to the test and made me do shakshuka, but then they took the things in their hand and quite frankly brought them together. The second point to bring people together is humor. When we went and decided for the title of the summer campus, it was Shaping Future Landscapes, Perspectives from Trees, Cows and Snails. And you would have imagined that everyone would have cheered. Our dear professors were like, yeah, but we spent so much time on choosing the title, so be it. And you should have seen the faces of the students, because we asked them before time to tell us which animal they would identify, or in this case, would it be the tree, cow, or the snail, and why? And then they got badges where we have illustrated all these three, and they were very proud to wear them and get together in the tree. Until now, they say, I was part of the tree group. Nobody knows what that is, but then they explained that to you. And so it was suddenly interdisciplinary. Not everyone from Targa hang out together as they did in the beginning. And humor indeed brought them together. But we had to create space, despite the disagreement of some of us. Thank you.
Okay, I think we have another comment or question here.
Yeah, a question.
Yeah.
I think I have a lot of voice and can also... online. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you. Alexander Götz from Study Central. So I'm not actually coming from the academic side, but from the EdTech side. And coming from the technical side, apologies if this is a very broad question, but I would like to know what were the biggest challenges in the digital setup and technical side when it comes to applying these concepts you just spoke about. You had a lot of different very interesting ideas or concepts of breaking up longer modules into smaller items, into engagement through collaboration, and that all even in an international context. I could imagine that there were a couple of technical challenges, hurdles, maybe even limits, and I would like to know what were the most significant ones. Thank you.
Yeah, that is perfect starting point for the next topic. I think if we want to know more about ice-breaking methods, there is a complete workshop about it from Mr. Köster. So you can talk about it more than there. And the next phrase, which is quite to your comment, is the technological part. So keep techniques as simple as possible. Maybe you can give us some examples what you did, Mr. Wolff. I would start with you.
Yeah, so I fully agree to this. If the technology is very complex, then you have, especially if it is a big group, you can already anticipate that you have in the beginning a lot of time to deal with this. Yeah? And therefore, it is important to do, let's say, something that is stable and is working, and where students are maybe already familiar with it. So having the same learning management system, having everything in this learning management system makes things much easier. Yeah, students will find it and they can familiarize with it. Also, it is very important that you are using tools which are working, which are not, let's say, prototype or needs effort to be installed. And our experience is that keeping the IT environment stable with the same partners also helps. Yeah? So you don't have the issue that something is introduced that is not working for them. The focus should not be the online technology, but the content of the course. And we have asked this several times in evaluations, how much people were struggling with the IT technology, and it was usually something that they perceived as without big problems. Yeah? So, and that was important. If it was problematic, if there was technical issues, then it was in the feedback right in the beginning that it was not well prepared, that the technology did not work. But if it was working, then they said, okay, technology was no issue, and that is very supportive. So, it is not about having the best multimedia show, but about getting the people into work and into collaboration. And therefore, our recommendation is less is more. Do it with not too much fancy technical things. Yeah.
Okay. What about your technical challenges as well? So to come back to the comment.
Yeah. So. For that, in the beginning, we, for example, had this idea of connecting learning management systems. So we had an IT expert in the group, and for him it wasn't like an enormous challenge, so he was able to figure it out fairly quickly. But then we realized that sometimes we still had other problems accompanying it. So for example, we had only a week to get the people into the learning management systems because of like procedures of the universities, because if you involve more than one or two, it gets more and more complicated. So after a while we realized that perhaps we wouldn't need that connection for every coil, because sometimes something more simple would do the job. So that was one thing why we sometimes decided not to use whatever we created and to keep it as simple as possible. On the other side, what we also realized is having an IT person on board, because that was like our big advantage. It wasn't really a question of the limits of techniques. It was a question of the limit of administrative and rules and legal stuff. So very often we were able to do it, but then when we wanted to do it, the other universities said, oh no, because of data security, there's no way. So I don't think really that what we need for our kind of cooperations is technically very, very difficult. So I think like what I always got as a response when I asked my tech person was like, yeah, of course you can do it, but may we do it? And it was like, and he had like this voice, like very calm, telling you, no problem at all, on the technical side. And that turned out to be very true.
Yeah, thank you for these insights. What about the others? Which formats did you use to collect your teaching units, for example?
Well, we experienced that we have a kind of really a challenge in designing the user journey. So where to click and what window will open, and it makes a huge difference if the window is integrated or is it just an extra window, because usually it's a problem to come the way back. Or if you just clicking on the video and this is part of an asset, whatever content container, and then you're in that asset container, and then if you want to navigate forward or backwards, then you're navigating within the asset container. You never find the way back to the original course. And or you're just using a kind of a video platform specific like YouTube, but only for your university. You have to re-enroll, and as an international student, usually this is an issue. Okay, you are enrolled in your learning platform, but now you have to re-enroll in that kind of YouTube thing. Again, you are losing persons, and this is always it's always about this designing the journey, the user journey coming, and usually you click and you go for the next step, but if you want to go back, this usually I think is an issue, not to lose orientation where you are.
In terms of keep it simple, we had also two scenarios. In some courses, we like the international partners agreed on like external tools to collaborate on, but we also intended to also include partner students in the learning management system of the University of Göttingen as part of their journey, because it's also a big value for potential students who want to go on a physical exchange later to already get to know the learning environment of a possible partner university. And it was, they also reported, so students who took part in a virtual exchange or online class in Göttingen already, they reported that it later was easier for them to get started actually when they came to Göttingen on a physical exchange later, because they knew where to search for courses, where to apply for exams, and how to connect with students and lecturers through this platform. So there are two sides.
I just wanted to make a quick comment or underline what Juana was saying, that the technical part is not always the biggest problem. Like we, for example, we don't have an IT person in our project, so for us, like connecting learning management softwares seemed fairly complicated, technically, but also administratively, like getting the rights of the administration to allow you to open up the learning management platform. So for us, the most simple solution was we had a company set up an own Moodle platform for our project where we can enroll the students ourselves. So the most simple solution, I think, always depends also on each university. So it's not the same solution for each setting. So for us, it was way more easy to just set up a Moodle platform, a new one for our project, than to fight with the administration.
We do the same. Maybe comment from my side, which is also feeding into this here. So we are trying to do both. So the technical onboarding of students, especially international students, is a challenge. So this identity management and getting them automatically on board or having a shared identity management is a topic we are working on, and we are trying it out. But we have in parallel, we have also the same, an own Moodle, an own Microsoft 365 tenant even, where the teachers can invite the students by themselves, because this is sometimes the only workaround. If the other things take too long, you are starting and then people say, yeah, we can solve it, but it will take 1 week. Then you have no chance, and you need to have a backup. And I have also to say, same as Bielefeld, we are using the Ilias learning management system. This is for international students and also teachers unknown to a large extent. So having a Moodle at hand can also help. So that's feedback from Dortmund.
Okay, thank you. So, yeah, you already mentioned it several times now. We come to the last phrase already, which is more about the challenges, especially about the administrative challenges. So be faced to get some. Yeah, maybe Ms. Sennhenn, you want to start?
Yeah, it's not a secret, yeah. There were lots of obstacles, in particular when it comes to administration, but during this conference, we see lots of very brilliant and innovative examples of virtual cooperation, international virtual cooperation, and these corporations, they foster and also drive, that we also negotiate on standards, and we have seen that there are quite a number of new forms of mobility, but administration is lagging behind to actually allow higher education institutions to implement it on a smooth way, I would say. So one particular challenge is the registration of students, the status of students. So virtual exchange scenarios can be implemented in different ways, so there is not always a need to register partner students at the home institution, but there is definitely a need of a kind of a new status who allows us to let students into the learning management systems, not on a long term, also in a flexible way, because like online classes, block courses, international excursions, summer schools, they have different names, but there's not yet a German-wide agreement on how we handle the registration of the students. And I'm from if I take the international office perspective, for us it's so valuable to count also these exchanges, because we need to count them or record them at least in order to further develop all our cooperation agreements, because this is now it's a part of mobility, and there's not yet the one solution how we can incorporate it in MOUs, for instance, or how we account these exchanges.
Yeah, maybe I can add to that from the other perspective, because I work at the department that is actually doing the courses. And we have a lot of discussions with the international office, because the international office wants to count everything, which I get. But for us, it's really an extra effort to enroll the students that are here for 3 days. And I need a lot of data from them. For me, I don't like to ask the students for so much data. So that's why I think this project or this program was really valuable, because it was the first time we had such a strong connection to the international office. Because I think usually the departments do all these courses, and most of the time the international office doesn't even know that there's a summer school going on right now, if it's not organized from the central, the head of the universities. So yeah, I think it's really good to have this discussion and maybe find compromise. Do we really need to know this and this and that? Or what information is important to you? And what is easy for us to ask the students, and at what point? Because time is also an issue. Sometimes 5 students say, oh, by the way, I cannot participate because I have conflicting schedules. And then I want to give somebody from the waiting list a chance. But for the international office, they need 2 weeks to enroll the students.
2 weeks is fast.
Yeah, more maybe. And when do we do it? Is it okay if 5 students are not enrolled, or like how strict do we have to? So I think this is a really important discussion we need to have.
Yeah, for like the summer campus or online courses, we use the guest student status in Lower Saxony to register the students, to also allow them to earn credits, which is also important for recognition later, of course. But yeah, for the BIPs, for instance, we were able to allow students to register as guest students without paying fees, but in general it's not yet confirmed, so we attempt to change some of the laws in Lower Saxony, but the first attempt failed, but we're still working on having this more or less flexible student status for the different forms of mobility we just introduced, but yeah, still not yet. But you, I think you have the digital student status?
Yes, we got a digital student status, but only for a very, very small group of people. So while we were in the pandemic, we thought about, is there any possibility of creating a mobile mobility for the students? And we thought about very, very low. We thought about just like, is it possible for one student from another university to participate virtually in one of our classes? And of course, if you do that, you're not, your interest can't be that they have to have a health insurance, that they need to pay fees or whatever. So we tried to keep that very, very low, and it worked out. So, but it took us forever. So I think it is now it is now a formal status, like a week old. And we started to discuss that more or less 2 years ago. But it is a beginning. It is a first step. But it is true that all that administrative stuff is like very, very far out of our reach. It's really difficult to change anything. So all the other things we discussed today, we can do something from the projects coming bottom up. But everything that is administrative depends very, very much on top-down instructions, and makes our life quite difficult.
Okay, I think we are good in time. We have maybe 5 minutes left to give you the chance to give a last advice or best practice from your project in maybe 1-2 sentences. Could also be something we already had in the phrases, but what was your lesson learned within IMKD?
Maybe I should start. I have a short statement. So the most impressive, due to the size of the project and due to the impact, was the learning curve for the organization itself. So we had a steep learning curve, and all the things that we discussed happened and led to a development of the organization. Maybe they can still not do everything, but we learned a lot. So that's my feedback about such big projects. Yeah.
So I'll go first then here. So for us, we really had a marvelous time in this project. We absolutely loved it. We did a lot of things. We talked to a lot of people. We changed a lot around, and we made ourselves heard, which was really fun. So it was really a very, very nice project. Many things are going to stay with the university, which we love. But I think my lesson learned is be as service-oriented and flexible and humorous as possible. And don't let anybody tell you can't do something. Just try it. And some things we did, we thought this is not going to survive, but those are actually the things that are surviving in the end. So if you don't try it, you can't get it.
Yeah, I think, I mean, it's hard now to summarize the whole project, but I think the flexibility that you just mentioned in your listing is key. I mean, you have an idea, you start with a project, a proposal, and then a pandemic happens, or something else happens. So I think it's really good if you manage to stay flexible in your mind and say, okay, we have to throw that out, do something else, find another way to accomplish to accomplish the goals, but with different means. And I think this flexibility in mind is really important.
Yeah, and something I learned through the project was also that it's definitely worth it to keep internationally collaborating, because it drives technical innovations, and it also drives administration innovations, hopefully. And it's important. So the international cooperation is kind of the basis for like moving forward in education.
Well, my lesson learned out of it is that, yeah, again, international teaching can't be done by only the lecturer. It needs much more personnel, and that means much more funding. I would say IMKD was a nice start. We reached a lot, but it was kind of a weird time. There we had this pandemic, and now the funding stops. And I don't really understand why, because internationalization still is important, digitalization still is important, but I don't know why. What we're doing now, obviously something else. Yeah, and I guess this is my lesson learned out of it. It will not happen just with nice talking or something. Like, it needs personnel, it needs money. This is not done aside of what you're doing all day long. This is, I guess, pretty clear.
Okay, thank you very much. We take that to heart. Yeah, and thank you for participating in this panel discussion. Also, Mr. Wolff, virtual. Thank you. And technologically, everything was fine here, I guess. Okay, thank you.